I have an idea, and this idea may be a bad one, and this is going to be my only one shot that I'm going to be doing. But this is, what if Izumi had a absorption quirk? It's not really going to be a normal absorption quirk, but Izumi Midoriya has gone to the canon doctor, which everybody says is All for One's doctor, but I don't think so. But playing off of that theory, this absorption quirk is every time a quirk is used on Izumi and a little bit of pain is caused, the quirk is nullified and taken. So, the doctor uses All for One's quirk to take the quirk from Izumi, but she feels a little pinprick from the quirk. And the pinprick activates her quirk, which takes All for One from the doctor. And the doctor, thinking that he took her quirk, walks to the he walks to the machine that says the quirk, and it says the amount, and the doctor sees that it reads 2 quirks. And he's like, that should be right. It should say 0 quirks. And list her as quirkless. So he walks over to her and tries to take her quirk again, but can't activate All for One. So he's confused. So he walks out to the Midoriyas, which is Hisashi and Inko, who at this time are slightly abusive. They think that if she doesn't have a good quirk, then they're just going to leave her and let her rot, like the brat that she is. And which irritates me because no parent should treat their child like that or give them whatever they want. That just makes the child way too unstable. But back on topic. So Izumi walks out with the doctor, and the doctor says that she has a quirk and it's a useless quirk. It's called absorption. It absorbs all damage that she takes and transfers it into energy. And they're like, oh, that's not a good quirk. But then Hisashi thinks, well, what do I expect from a weak uh, wife quirk? A weak quirk from my wife. Obviously, my daughter's going to have a weak quirk. So later that day, Hisashi leaves Inko, and they've already left Izumi out in the middle of nowhere. So Hisashi breaks up with Inko, and Inko's devastated. So she tries to go and pick up uh, Izumi, but Izumi's already gone. So the next thing that happens is Izumi is walking through the woods, which she found after like 10 minutes, and stumbles across this random person who is currently holding someone at gunpoint. And this person who's holding this other person at gunpoint says, you better lay off my group or you're gonna die. You damn underground hero. your name is as stupid as your quirk is. And Izumi, who's still somewhat of a hero nerd, knows exactly who that is because once she hears stupid name and underground hero, she thinks Aizawa. No, not Aizawa. She thinks Eraserhead. So she immediately runs and tries to free Eraserhead. A few minutes later, or not a few minutes, a few seconds later, she's right behind the other guy, and for some reason she feels like she just needs to touch him and he will stop. And his quirk was imagination. Anything he imagines that is part of this world, he can create for a short time. So he imagined a gun, and the gun is created for a short time. And he snuck up on Eraserhead. Now Izumi, who snuck up on him, just is like, okay. She taps his leg, and all of a sudden, his gun disappears. Then he feels a sharp pain throughout his entire body, emanating from where Izumi tapped him. He turns around and sees a damn 4-year-old child and thinks, what the hell did she do to me? And he tries to activate his quirk, and he starts freaking out, like, where the hell is my quirk? And Eraserhead, feeling that the guy is currently not holding a gun to his head, turns and takes him down. And Eraserhead sees that this guy was looking at a child and freaking out because of the child. Then Eraserhead walks up to the child and asks, "What are you doing here?" And Izumi starts crying, and she says that she was left out in the middle of nowhere because she had a useless quirk. And she's like, all I wanted to do is have some toys, and she starts thinking of the toy that she wanted, and all of a sudden it appears in her hand. Aizawa, seeing this, and says that was that guy's quirk, and he asks, "What is your quirk?" And Izumi, thinking that it's a useless absorption quirk, she says it was an absorption quirk. And Izumi says it apparently had the name Eye for an Eye. And blah, blah, blah. Eraserhead, knowing exactly who she is now because there was a missing persons report for a kid who had a quirk named Eye for an Eye. And Inko is currently a terrible mother for not even remembering her daughter's name. Yes, she doesn't even remember her daughter's name. So Aizawa takes her to the police department and says she cannot go back with her parents because her parents were the ones that dropped her off in the middle of nowhere, and that how should I say this? Yeah. And that she's been hit multiple times from her parents, and she thought it was normal for parents to hit people. And he explains the situation more in depth, and the cops are like, okay, we shall take this missing persons report down and then go arrest her. And Aizawa goes, no, 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 we can't arrest her because all we have is say so. what I want to do is test her. And Aizawa walks up to Izumi and asks, "Can you help us with something?" And Izumi, being the cheerful, helpful kid that she is, says, "Sure." And he asks, "Can you help us with finding out what your mom does to you?" And Izumi goes, "No, I don't want to be in the same room as her. I'm tired of her doing what she's done to me." And Aizawa says, "I know, I know. I've seen how people get treated that way, and I hate it. And if you help me, I will help you. I can get you out of there if you help me." And she reluctantly agrees, and a day later, Inko is taken to the station and is given the rights to see her daughter. And she asks, "Why can't I take her home?" And the cops say, "You can't take her home yet because she was attacked by a villain. We still need confirmation from her that the villain was taken care of by Aizawa." And they make up this bogus story, and they put her in a room that has a hidden camera but is in the back where no one can hear anything. And when Inko walks in, she starts chastising Izumi for uh, being so weak and worthless and getting attacked so easily. And then is like, "I shall teach you a lesson for being weak and worthless," and starts hitting Izumi. And Aizawa, seeing that the first punch was thrown, immediately leaves the observation room and runs to the back room and sees that the room is completely locked down, and asks, "Why is the room locked down?" And the cops are like, "We don't even know. We need your help." And then all of a sudden they hear screaming from inside the room, and Inko, no one's in the observation room, so no one knows what's going on in there. And then the sword goes through the door and then looks like it got ripped out at Mach speed. And they're asking what the hell is going on. Then they hear another scream, and this time it's of someone crying in pain instead of a fright. And an hour later, when they finally get in, they find that Inko was thoroughly thrashed by Izumi. And uh, she was thoroughly thrashed by Izumi, and Izumi was thoroughly whipped with, or thoroughly beaten the hell out of. So Izumi has broken bones, she has bruises, and Inko has missing hand. She has a lot of missing limbs. So the next thing that happens is the cops run in and put cuffs on Izumi, and Aizawa tells them that they can't do that because Izumi was just defending herself. And they go, "How do you know that?" Another cop runs in and says, "We have the whole thing on tape. The first punch and hit was thrown by her supposed mother." So they're all confused, and they go back and watch the tape and see that the first hit was thrown by Inko, and they have audio recording of Inko saying, "You worthless piece of trash, I'm going to teach you why you are worthless and show you why you need to be better." Aizawa the whole time is currently sitting with Izumi in a hospital, and Izumi is currently cuffed to the bed. And this is going to get a lot darker, sorry, but it's going to get a lot darker. A year later, Izumi's waking up from while she's in her bed, and she walks out of her room and yells, "Dad, I'm up." And a call from downstairs says, "Okay, dinner's on the table." And she goes over to her parents' room, or not her parents, but her guardian's room, and says, "Mom, I'm up." And she goes, "That's nice, sweetie. I'll be downstairs in a minute." And when she gets downstairs, she sees Aizawa cooking lunch and lunch, and he restates what he said earlier. Dinner is on the not dinner. Damn it. Breakfast is on the table. You need to get ready for school. And Izumi goes, "Okay." And is Kachan here? And he goes, "No, he's not here yet. He's going to be here soon." And then Aizawa says, "Remember, only say that you have an imaging quirk." She goes, "Yeah, you've told me that for the last year, but I'll be back." So we skip 5-10 minutes. Izumi's done eating breakfast, and Aizawa is finishing up the lunches, and Nimuru, Nimuru, Nirumu, Midnight's real name. Sorry, I can't really say it. Midnight walks out of the bedroom and walks and sits at the table. So, this is gonna freaking hurt my soul to do, but I have to do it to make this very dark. So Katsuki walks to the door and knocks, and Aizawa answers the door and says, "Oh, she's almost ready. Give me a minute. I will tell her." And he walks to the kitchen, closes the bag, and hands it to her, saying, "Katsuki's here." And she goes, "Okay, see you guys later." And she heads off to school. Now, this is after school. She's walking home, and Katsuki breaks off because his home is a little further, and she's about to walk in. Aizawa and Midnight are currently on patrol. Well, Midnight is just getting off patrol, and Aizawa's just getting on. And she's home alone. And all of a sudden, she hears a knock at the door. And she goes to the door and answers it and says, "Hello, how may I help you? This is the Aizawa residence." Kindly, and she introduces herself as Izumi Aizawa. And the man turns around with a bird mask, and she sees the mask, and she calmly says, "Can you please leave? We don't want any solicitors or visitors at this moment." And she starts closing the door. Then in Overhaul puts his bare hand on the door, and the door blows apart. And then he grabs her and knocks her out with a chop before she could react. And there's a note left from Overhaul to Aizawa and Midnight. "Stop hunting me, or your daughter is dead." And Midnight and Aizawa, who've grown quite attached to their adopted daughter of Izumi, start freaking out and asking for help. And the cops start looking and trying to find her. But while Overhaul is currently in his lab, he's like, I've seen your quirk. I know what it does, but I'm wondering, does it actually work? And what kind of quirks does it not work against? So he takes his glove off, and the mad scientist in him grabs her head. He blows it off and then puts her head back together like it just was blown off. And he grabs her arm and tries to do it again. And he finds that he can't use his quirk. And he grabs her other arm and tries to do it again. And he gets the same result as her other arm, as he can't use his quirk. So he thinks he just can't use it against her anymore. So he grabs one of the metal plates or metal platters that he has near him and tries to use his quirk, but can't. Izumi, who has All for One, and I'm going to say another ability of All for One is she can see and see the quirk's name, but once she takes it, then she can see what the quirk does. So she knows exactly what her quirk does. She's not told anybody except for Aizawa and Midnight. And so Overhaul can't use his quirk and he's starting to freak out. And Izumi, who sees a opportunity, uses Overhaul's quirk, to deconstruct the chair she's sitting on. So she gets up and starts running for it, deconstructing walls and reconstructing them to escape. So she gets out and goes to the cops and asks for rubber gloves. And they are like, why? And she goes, I have a quirk and I can't control it. And they don't know who she is because this is a few towns over. So this is a different police station. And they're just getting their missing persons reports for the day. And they're like, sure, we'll give you some rubber gloves. And they give her the rubber gloves. She puts them on. And the missing persons report and a kidnapped person's reports finally come in, and the person who sorts through them sees a familiar face, then looks at Izumi, looks back at the report, looks at Izumi, and then yells, Chief, you need to get in here. And Izumi, who kind of knows why, he asks, did you get my report? And the person asks, are you Izumi Aizawa? And while the person is saying that sentence, the chief of the police station walks in. And I'm saying that Aizawa, Midnight, both live within a mile of UA. And Naomasa is the chief of that police station. And the dog is the chief of this police station. I forgot his name from the anime because I haven't read the manga, so no manga spoilers here, but anime spoilers. So he walks in and he sees Izumi and looks at the report and he says, you are Izumi Aizawa, aren't you? Before she could answer, are you Izumi Aizawa? And she goes, yeah. I kind of took Overhaul's quirk, and all the police chiefs know what her quirk is because she's gonna immediately go to UA because Aizawa told them, and all the heroes have to tell it I'm going to say it's a law in this one that all the heroes have to tell the police chiefs that they live near and the police chiefs of the areas near them quirks, the quirk combinations or the quirks of their children. So the chief knows that she has a very strong quirk, and he gives her a bracelet saying this is for the thing, because some of our officers have a hard time controlling pain quirks. Oh, some of them, not all of them. So it could activate on an accident. And Izumi says, thank you, I'll put it on immediately. So she puts on the quirk suppressing bracelet. That is to nullify all quirk genes that are in the body's in the body. So Izumi's quirk genes are completely nullified. And yes, that's a real device. That's going to be in all my what ifs now. So Izumi has rubber gloves on right this second, and a bracelet on her left wrist. And Aizawa comes walking in to the police station, sees Izumi with gloves on and a bracelet on, and he knows that, oh, so this is the police station with those people, because this is a police station that deals with harder criminals to deal with. So they have to inflict pain, and they have some cops who use their quirk to inflict pain, but have a hard time to control that pain. So he's like, okay, that makes sense why he gave her that. And she's sitting in the front of the police station. Aizawa walks in and immediately runs up to her and hugs her and says, I was worried. And she goes, yeah. And she says this name casually, Overhaul. Didn't get the full information. And he hears the name Overhaul, and he goes, so he's not a threat anymore? And she goes, no, he's not. And the police chief, who's been sitting with her, talking with her, or trying to get to know her, because she's going to be a great hero, and he knows that, asks, what do you mean Overhaul's not going to be a problem anymore? And she says, you've read my file, most likely. You know what my quirk is, my original quirk. And she says that, and one of the rookies that was walking in starts chiming into their conversation. And the dog police chief, who has the senses of a dog, knows when they're being watched or listened to very attentively, says, oi, rookie, keep walking. And the rookie butts out of their conversation before they could continue, because the chief is very protective over her potential assets to either the police or the Hero Society. That's why he helped Izuku, Ida, and Todoroki with the Stain arc. But back to the Overhaul talk. She says Overhaul used his quirk on me and blew my head off. Aizawa's eyes widen, the chief's eyes widen, and they go, are you okay? And she goes, the only thing that he messed up was I now have a voice in my head. And Aizawa goes, what do you mean a voice in your head? And she says, I have a voice in my head telling me that I am going to be the worst hero possible and doubting me all the time. And Aizawa says, why would that be there? And Izumi says Overhaul's quirk is to deconstruct and reconstruct it better. More perfect is what it says. And apparently, I was subconsciously doubting myself. So now I can hear the subconscious thoughts that I have as a full-on voice. And Aizawa says, we are going to train you so that voice goes away. And Izumi starts laughing, going, this voice probably will never go away. And at this time, All For One is freaking out still because he can't find Izumi. Because he's still looking for Izumi Midoriya. And the doctor is still freaking out because he lost All For One's quirk. And All For One's trying to find a scheme and plan to get his quirk back from this little girl. And so Izumi is playing with Bakugo, and she still has the bracelet on. And Bakugo says, I never see you use your quirk. What is your quirk? And lately you've been having gloves on all the time. Izumi says, my quirk is very dangerous if I'm not careful. My quirk stems from my hands. If I imagine something, my hands will produce it. But I need a open bare hand to have it. She's just creating a false condition for her quirk. So Bakugo believes that that's why she needs the gloves. But it's really Overhaul that she needs the gloves for. And Bakugo's like, why don't you just take the gloves off and show me your quirk? And Izumi says, my quirk is so dangerous that I also have to have a quirk suppressant on. And she points to the bracelet. And Bakugo goes, what the hell is a quirk suppressant? Because aren't quirks part of your DNA? And she goes, yes. But quirk suppressants are for very rare occasions on very hard to control criminals or kids that have problems controlling their quirk. And she points to herself, like me. So a few years pass by. She's 10, and All For One has found her because she broke a bone playing with Bakugo, and she had to be rushed to the emergency room. And the doctor was a doctor at the emergency room, so he found her, and All For One was like, when you see her, find a way to get her out and to me. So the doctor found her, and this is while she's passed out from pain and exhaustion. The doctor abducts her, or kidnaps her, whatever you want to call it. And he arrives at All For One's hideout. But what he doesn't know is that Aizawa and Midnight have been putting trackers in her quirk suppressors that have to be changed out every 3 months just to make sure that they still work. And she's on the last of the charge for this quirk suppressor, so the emergency replace light / beacon for all the heroes and doctors know to find her and give her a new one goes off. Aizawa sees this and notices that it's not turning off. And this light is so dull and dim that if you're not looking directly at it, you don't see it. It's like a black light. It's not a black light, it's like a black light. Where if it's so dull that if you're not looking directly at it, you don't know it's on. So, All For One and Dr. Ujiko the doctor that has been looking for her, are currently leaning over her, waiting for her to wake up. An hour goes by, and she finally wakes up, and the light is still going off, and Aizawa sees that it hasn't gone off for an hour. And he knows that this bracelet shows where she is at all times, no matter where she is. And that if the emergency doesn't go off within 2 hours, she's either hurt really bad, or she's somewhere where she can't leave. And Aizawa starts worrying because she has never had it go for more than 30 minutes before. Once the tracker / light goes in, she has always been up to date with the battery life of the quirk suppressor and the tracker. So when Aizawa sees that it's been on for an hour, he starts getting worried, and he calls the police department and tells them the frequency to move one of their tracking drones to, and looks and says, "Scout for my daughter, because she's currently here and her bracelet hasn't been changed." And since she has reported to Aizawa that she has the number one villain's quirk, they're thinking, oh, the number one villain is wanting his quirk back. So he's going to do stuff so Izumi gives him his quirk back. So they've been keeping a close eye on her. He still has all the quirks that he's been getting, but Dr. Ujiko took his quirk for a little bit so he could get more quirks from his quirk doctor position. Some good quirks. And Dr. Ujiko had like 3 on him. And when he pricked Izumi, all for one was taken. All for one was taken, and the other 3 quirks were overloading Ujiko, so he had to make a trip to All for One, and he said that I have to have a quirk suppressor on until we can find your quirk. That's when All for One found out that he was missing his quirk. And now, present day, All for One is currently telling Dr. Ujiko to torture her until she gives him his quirk back. And Dr. Ujiko says, "I'm happy to oblige." So Izumi wakes up and is strapped down. She has 3 more quirk suppressing collars on. One on her right wrist, one on her neck, and a set of cuffs for her feet. And the doctor smiles at her, saying, "It's been a while, kid. You've taken something from someone that needs to be returned as fast as possible." And she goes, "Overhaul's quirk? No. My quirk? No. Oh, you mean the number one villain's quirk?" And Dr. Ujiko sees that she knows exactly what she's doing, and is starting to get scared, because only people who know exactly what they're doing is this confident. And he says, "Yes, the number one villain's quirk, and we need it back." And Izumi goes, "No, you don't get it." 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door of the bar. And Shigaraki opens the door, and it's a pizza delivery guy. Yes, it's that. It's a pizza delivery guy, and no, I'm going to do something hilarious. It's All Might dressed up as the pizza delivery guy. And Shigaraki sees that it's All Might and freaks out and slams the door, and All Might busts the door in, saying, "You have a kidnapped kid here, and we have proof. I want her back." And Izumi, hearing the break of the door. It's like, oh, so they came early. And the doctor, hearing the break of the door, freaks out and takes All for One and tries to escape. Then, all of a sudden, Kurogiri gets busted through the door, and he's broken and bloodied. Well, looks like he's bloodied, but he's not actually bleeding. Because there's a new way to make nomus and they don't actually need blood. So, Izumi sees that he has a warp quirk. And so she uses one of the quirks that she has, that she's had taken from some of the bullies at school, and cuts Kurogiri's arm off. And Kurogiri yells, no, it doesn't yell. Nomus don't feel pain. Well, except for that one that fought All Might. It felt slight pain. Kurogiri freaks out because he's losing an arm. He tries to reach for his arm, and all of a sudden, All Might punches him away. And punches him out into the middle of the area, and he gets captured by heroes. Then Shigaraki gets captured by heroes. Dr. Ujiko gets captured by heroes. And then All for One gets captured by heroes. And All for One vows to get his quirk back and to take revenge on Izumi and All Might. And Aizawa, who hears this, says, "You're not touching my daughter because you aren't going to be out for another 300 years. And All for One says, "I can live that long. She can too." Don't know about him. He might have like a year or two left. And All Might says, "What do you mean?" And Izumi walks up to him and shakes his hand. He feels a small prick, then an entire pain through his body, and she goes, "Okay, you're cured." And All for One is like, "Wait, what did you just do?" And All Might goes, "What do you mean I'm cured?" Izumi says, All for One has the ability to live forever because of his quirk. If he takes a quirk, he lives longer. And One for All, the more users that show up or get passed down, the less life you have because of how much energy it takes to withstand All for One. So I just gave you more of One for All. Or not One for All for One. So you now have no penalty for your quirk. So you shall live to the normal age that you're supposed to. And I have no extra gain for my life. And All Might, hearing this, says, "So there's not going to be any more number one villains?" And she goes, "Once you take out the number one villain, another new number one comes out. Like how if you take out the symbol of peace, like what he was planning." And she points to the board that is in the dimly lit corner of plans to kill All Might. And it says that on the top of the board. Plans to kill All Might. She goes, "If you have plans like he does, then you're always a villain. Especially plans like his." And All for One, who still has his quirks, starts to use them, and she's like, "Oh, hell no." And she runs to All for One and starts taking the powerful quirks. he had 13 powerful quirks that he was about to start using. So she takes 12 out of 13 powerful quirks. And all of a sudden, she passes out. And the regeneration quirk that he has is the last powerful quirk he has. And the thing that kept him mentally stable is long gone, so he starts speaking in gibberish, and his mind starts slowly melting because of his quirks. All of his quirks are eating away at his mind, so now he's mentally stable because of... Or, he was mentally stable because of a quirk, because his quirks were eating away at his mind. Now he's mentally unstable because of his quirks melting away his mind. So he starts acting like a vegetable. The proper term for being brain dead. And a few more years pass, and Izumi and Bakugo are sitting in class. And Izumi says to Bakugo, "What school are you planning to go to?" And he goes, "Stop bragging about you immediately getting acceptance into UA." She goes, "I didn't get accepted. I turned down the recommendation. I'm going into the entrance exams." And Bakugo's eyes widen, going, "What the hell? You just got a free ride into UA and you turned it down?" She goes, "Yeah. I think I'm the only person who would do so." And he goes, "Yeah, you're the only one crazy enough to do so." She goes, "I'm powerful enough. I don't know who to make the ship." Yeah, sorry. I know who to make the ship. I definitely know who to make the ship. So, over the years, Izumi has been going to the top-ranking criminals and taking their quirks. One of the criminals had a quirk to have their regeneration hyper-amplified, but it shortens their lifespan. And then another criminal had a quirk that extended his lifespan, but he had a really weak immune system. And his lifespan was extended by many, 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 many years. And she's like, no wonder he's a clean freak. So she takes the quirk that hyper regenerates herself, and now she's... I'll be right back. I gotta take this. That was strange. My friend just hung up on me. But anyway, where was I? So they're sitting at lunch at school, and they're talking. Yes, Katsuki is chiller in this one. Only to Izumi, though. Not anybody else. Because he has trust issues. Because he was betrayed by too many people in his life. His original father and mother. Because Mitsuki and Masaru, his mom and dad in canon, are not his biological mother and father in this one. They're his adopted. And that's how he met Izumi. Because they had counseling together for people who've been adopted and have trust issues. Izumi's just always had trust issues, and so Bakugo is the only one who trusts her, and she's the only one he trusts. Or she's the only one he trusts, and he's the only one she trusts. I confused myself on that one. Don't know how. But anyway, they're talking about her turning down a UA scholarship, and the bullies of the school, who think that they're all that and some change, walk up and go, "Huh, you guys can't get into UA. You guys are weak." And she's just been telling people that she has an absorption quirk that turns the attack of someone into energy. And she doesn't give them any more details. So the bully, who has a mutation quirk, thinks, she can't do anything to my quirk. But with how much pain she's gone through with her quirks, and what her quirks do to her, she has a pain tolerance of a nuclear bomb going off, and she's barely feeling it. So, sorry, that was a little dark, but she acts, and Katsuki knows that it's an act from her, and that she doesn't feel any pain. So he acts too, because he's also been training his pain tolerance, and training with Aizawa and her, and Midnight. Oops. And so, damn it, I said it again. So it's the end of the day, and they're finally walking home. I skipped to the end of the day, and they're finally walking home. And Bakugo keeps annoying her about why she turned down the full ride recommendation, and she's like, I want to prove myself because of how much I've been through, and I still want to prove myself. And he goes, you don't even trust yourself. She goes, nah. Ever since I was abducted, I haven't trusted myself one millimeter. And he goes, stop with that science stuff. Even though I do know what a millimeter is, I just don't like you doing science terms. She goes, yeah, your feeble little peanut mind shall not understand the ways of the science. And he goes, oi, I still understand science stuff, I just don't like it. It makes my brain hurt. And she goes, yeah, I understand. So she starts talking stupid to him, and talking caveman, and he starts getting annoyed. Being like, the hell did I just say? I understand science speak, so go back to normal speak. She goes, me caveman, you no understand. And she starts teasing him that his brain hurts whenever she uses big words. Too big of words. And they get along like brother and sister. That's the dynamic that they have. And when Katsuki finally gets to his house, she bids him a farewell, and for him to say hi to Mitsuki for her. And he walks in, and yes, he does call her mom, and this one instead of old hag. He doesn't have that pride, he just had his trust issues. And oh, it's my dinner time. But I'll finish this up. I got 6 minutes to finish it up. Anyway, so Katsuki walks in, and Izumi says hi, and she goes, say hi for me too. And he runs out and yells, Izumi, she says hi. And she just waves bye to Katsuki, and he walks back in, and Mitsuki says dinner's ready, it's on the table. And he goes, thank you, Mom. And it's a loving family relationship that they have. And when Izumi gets home, she sees a note saying, sorry we couldn't be there for your last day. Hopefully it was a good one. Dinner's in the microwave. Love, Mom, because she calls Midnight Mom at this point, and she calls Aizawa Dad. She's called them that for a while. So she warms up the food, and then her mother gets home and says, I'm finally off patrol. I took my break and made dinner for you. And she said, thank you. It was my favorite. And thank you for leaving the note. And she goes, no problem. And she says, are you sure you want to skip out on the recommendation? Because you've been through enough, right? You've been through enough now. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. And she goes, you know I have trust issues, even for myself. The only one I can trust completely is Katsuki. I trust him more than myself. And she goes, I know. That damn voice in your head is getting in the way. And she goes, yeah. And in her head, the voice goes, no, I'm not. I'm just telling you what you feel. Duh. And she retorts in her head, shut the hell up. I don't want you in my head anymore. And Izumi has given Overhaul to Aizawa before to try to get the voice away. But Overhaul's quirk, which improves what was originally there, no matter how good it is. So, Overhaul's quirk, if it's used on a handgun, will make the handgun better. And then make the handgun, if used on the handgun again, better than before, and so on and so on. But they can also put things together partially, which makes it very dangerous. So Izumi is currently still training Overhaul's quirk a little, so she has perfect control. So Izumi is now 18 in this. She's 18. UA is a college, and she walks into the entrance exams. This is a week after school ends, and Mike greets her and tells her she can sit in the waiting room until the physical exams start. And she goes, okay, I will, and sits in the waiting room. And Nezu greets her by walking in and saying hi. And they know that she has trust issues with everybody, so they respectfully keep their distance. And she knows that the downside to Overhaul's quirk is that she became a germaphobe, and she's a massive germaphobe now, a very massive germaphobe. And Nezu says, would you like your own dorm room? And she goes, yes, please. I don't want to be around other people and show them what nasty things I have to offer. And she says nasty things in a very negative way with Nezu in the room, and Nezu just shakes his head going, okay, I shall set that up for you. And Aizawa walks in and says, your stuff is already being delivered to UA. And she goes, why the hell did you do that? I haven't gone through the test. And he goes, I don't need a test to know that you're ready for UA. You've been ready for the last 6 years. And she goes, she starts stuttering, being like, I don't know if I'm ready. And Nezu and Aizawa both walk up to her and say, you are ready. You are stronger than All Might. And she goes, I don't know about that. And she starts doubting herself severely and getting into a Tamaki kind of mood. And then they say, okay, call Bakugo. And Bakugo is currently taking the written exam, and President Mike says, Katsuki Bakugo, your test has been paused for 30 minutes for you to deal with something. And Bakugo, thinking, oh god, what do I have to deal with? Gets taken to the lounge where Izumi's currently in a corner, shaking severely, starting to freak out and have a panic attack. And Bakugo walks up to her and pinches her, and she focuses on him, and and goes, why the hell did you do that? And he goes, because you're doing that again. And she goes, oh crap, I'm doing it again? He goes, yeah. You're ready. You got this. I don't care if you want to take it. You're ready. You're freaking stronger than All Might. I used to look up to him, now I look up to you. And she starts laughing, going, still not as strong as him. He's the freaking symbol of peace. You can't be as strong as a symbol of peace. And he goes, yeah, right. And then All Might walks in and says, young Bakugo, I would like to talk to you after the exams. And Bakugo goes, okay, All Might. Wait, All Might? And he starts geeking out a little. And Izumi starts laughing and getting out of the panic attack kind of mood. And then she says, oh yeah, he is your favorite hero, isn't he? And Katsuki goes, yes, he's my favorite hero, but he's not my favorite person. And he starts blushing, thinking about Izumi. Yes, it's going to be a love triangle. Sorry about that. So, Izumi is getting prepared and having... And 29 minutes into the break that Katsuki has, the official written test ends. And Mike says you get a 30-minute break before the practical exam to hype yourselves up. And Katsuki walks out of the room saying, I gotta do something real quick. I'll be back to pick you up for the practical. And 5 minutes later, he comes back to pick her up for the practical. She goes, are you sure that you got all the questions right? And he goes, yeah. There's freaking some spelling errors in the questions. And he looks at Nezu and goes, did you seriously have to put that many spelling errors? And he goes, yeah. Wait, you saw spelling errors? Damn, you're smart. What's your IQ? And he goes, on the test on the American test, I'm 160. On the Japanese test, which is the same limit as God, which is infinite, I am 200. And Izumi here is currently at 1,000. And Izumi goes, no, I'm not at 1,000. I guessed. I didn't know half those. And she starts getting in that mood again, and Katsuki pinches her again, saying, stop. You just need to get into your zone, and then once you get in your zone, you'll be perfectly fine. So he pulls out the MP3 that he has that has a little tiny speaker on it, and he plays a song. He plays a very, very good song, and I'm tempted to play it right now, but yeah, I am. Give me a second. Oops. So after she hears the full song, I'm not playing the full song. After she hears the full song, she starts psyching herself up and getting in the mode of, I'm going to crush those robots before they have a chance to even get near me. And she has the power to do so. I'm not going to list all of her quirks. I could probably put them in the description. I may do that. So, after the exams, a girl runs up behind Izumi and says, "Thank you." Izumi gets freaked out by this and goes, "What do you want?" And then disappears from sight. And Katsuki immediately grabs Izumi's shoulder, going, "Calm the hell down. She just said thank you." And 90% of Izumi's quirks are messing with her mind slightly, and the voice in her head is getting worse sometimes. Sometimes. Other times it goes away completely. So she gets very paranoid sometimes, especially after she does something big like a test or exam. So after the test, she got very paranoid and was like, someone's gonna attack me, wanting to fight and prove themselves because of how good I was, and was I really that good? Did I even make it into the hero program? And she was thinking all these things and walking and was distracted. And when she hears someone yell behind her, she freaks out, not knowing what it was. And Katsuki tells her she needs to calm down and chill out because of her quirk is acting up again. And Izumi calms down and she becomes visible again. And the girl asks, what is your quirk? And Izumi says, manipulation. And she's like, what do you mean manipulation? And she goes, I have earth manipulation, I have light manipulation, I have air manipulation, I have water manipulation, I have fire manipulation, I have electricity manipulation. That's why it's just called manipulation, because I can manipulate whatever the hell I want. And the 12 out of the 13 quirks that One for All had, no, not One for All for One had, was 90% of them was manipulations. The last one was the mental fortitude quirk, so he can hold all the quirks without going insane. And now that Izumi is... I'm sorry, I just like this picture. Now that Izumi is mentally prepared for the quirks, that so she could take whatever quirk she wants, she gets manipulations and other quirks to help her survive. And this girl looked at her confused a little and says, well, hopefully you got in. My name is Ochako Uraka. And Izumi is hesitant of shaking Ochako's hand, and Bakugo starts chuckling and goes, yeah, she's a germaphobe. A massive germaphobe. And it took me 6 times washing my hands before I could even go near her for a handshake. And Izumi punches him in the shoulder, saying, you know what I can do. And he goes, yeah. Scared a little. And so, God damn it, I keep saying and so. You guys count how many and so's I do. And if you get to this part in the video, because I'm cutting it off here, if you get to this part in the video and you counted, and tell me how many and so's I have in the comments, and that's how many push-ups I'll do. Freaking hate saying and so. I hate stuttering. I hate stopping and then starting. I hate I hate filler words just in general. And so, are all fillers. I hate them. I hate doing them. So I'm trying to get more fluent in storytelling. So, damn it. Well, bye. Talk to you guys later. If you like it. If you want to hear more of this, press the subscribe button, because I'm probably going to record another one of these tonight, and upload it tonight and see how it does. But otherwise, see you guys tomorrow. Bye!